Question 1. The efficiency study reveals that implementing a new automated order-taking system at Chipotle restaurants is projected to significantly reduce order processing times and labor costs. However, the study did not fully explore the potential impact of this system on existing crew member roles, the intensity of remaining tasks, or the need for retraining. Which of the following approaches best addresses the professional and regulatory considerations for implementing this new system? Option A. Conduct a comprehensive impact assessment that evaluates the effects on crew member roles, workload, training needs, and overall work environment, and develop a mitigation plan to address any identified challenges, ensuring compliance with U.S. labor laws and ethical employment practices. Option B. Proceed with the implementation of the new system immediately to capitalize on the projected efficiency gains and cost savings, as the primary goal is to improve business performance. Option C. Focus solely on the financial benefits of the new system and implement it without further investigation into its operational or human resource implications, assuming employees will adapt. Option D. Implement the new system and then gather employee feedback only if significant operational disruptions or complaints arise to address issues reactively. Correct answer is A. Conduct a comprehensive impact assessment that evaluates the effects on crew member roles, workload, training needs, and overall work environment, and develop a mitigation plan to address any identified challenges, ensuring compliance with U.S. labor laws and ethical employment practices. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing operational efficiency gains with potential impacts on employee well-being and adherence to labor laws. The introduction of new technology, while promising increased productivity, can also lead to job displacement, increased workload intensity, or changes in work environment that may not be immediately apparent or fully understood. Careful judgment is required to ensure that the pursuit of efficiency does not inadvertently violate Chipotle's ethical standards or any applicable U.S. labor regulations concerning employee treatment, working conditions, or fair labor practices. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves conducting a comprehensive impact assessment that considers both the intended efficiency benefits and the potential negative consequences for employees and the work environment. This aligns with best professional practices by prioritizing a holistic view of change management. From a regulatory and ethical standpoint in the U.S., this approach demonstrates a commitment to responsible business operation, which includes considering the human element of technological implementation. It proactively identifies potential issues, allowing for mitigation strategies to be developed, thereby preventing potential violations of labor laws related to working conditions, employee rights, and fair treatment. This proactive stance is crucial for maintaining a positive employee relations environment and avoiding legal repercussions. Incorrect approach is analysis. Implementing the new technology without a thorough impact assessment, focusing solely on projected efficiency gains, represents a significant regulatory and ethical failure. This approach ignores potential adverse effects on employees, such as increased stress, job insecurity, or the need for retraining, which could lead to a hostile work environment or claims of unfair labor practices under U.S. law. It also risks overlooking compliance issues related to workplace safety or changes in job duties that might require adjustments to compensation or benefits, potentially violating wage and hour laws or other employment regulations. Focusing only on the cost savings associated with the new technology, without evaluating its broader implications, is another ethically unsound and potentially illegal approach. This narrow focus can lead to decisions that negatively impact employee morale and productivity in the long run, creating a disconnect between management's goals and the reality on the ground. Such a myopic view can also result in overlooking necessary investments in employee training or support, which could be mandated by certain labor standards or implied by ethical employment practices. Ignoring employee feedback during the implementation phase, even after an initial impact assessment, is also problematic. While an assessment might identify potential issues, ongoing employee input is vital for understanding the real-world effects of the changes. Failing to solicit or act on this feedback can lead to unforeseen problems, employee dissatisfaction, and potential grievances, which could escalate into legal disputes under U.S. employment law. It also signifies a disregard for employee voice, a cornerstone of ethical workplace management. Professional reasoning Professionals should approach technological implementation by first defining the objectives and expected benefits. Subsequently, a thorough impact assessment should be conducted, encompassing operational, financial, and, critically, human resource dimensions. This assessment should involve input from relevant stakeholders, including employees who will be directly affected. Based on the assessment, a mitigation plan should be developed to address any identified negative impacts, ensuring compliance with all applicable U.S. labor laws and ethical guidelines. Continuous monitoring and feedback loops should be established post-implementation to adapt strategies as needed and ensure sustained positive outcomes for both the business and its employees. Question 2. The performance metrics show a significant opportunity to reduce labor costs through the implementation of a new automated ordering and preparation system in Chipotle restaurants. Before a full-scale rollout, what is the most responsible and effective approach to assess the potential impact of this technology? Option A. Conduct a comprehensive impact assessment that evaluates the technology's effects on employee roles, training requirements, customer service quality, and overall operational efficiency, including pilot testing in select locations. Option B. Proceed with the rollout, assuming that increased efficiency will automatically translate to improved customer satisfaction and employee morale. Option C. Immediately implement the new system across all restaurants to realize the projected cost savings as quickly as possible. Option D. Deploy the technology without consulting employees, as their input is not necessary for a system upgrade. The correct answer is A. Conduct a comprehensive impact assessment that evaluates the technology's effects on employee roles, training requirements, customer service quality, and overall operational efficiency, including pilot testing in select locations. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing operational efficiency with the potential for negative impacts on employee well-being and customer experience. The rapid implementation of new technology, while promising cost savings, can disrupt established workflows, lead to employee resistance, and inadvertently affect service quality if not managed thoughtfully. Careful judgment is required to assess these potential consequences before widespread adoption. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves conducting a thorough impact assessment that considers multiple facets of the business. This includes evaluating the technology's effect on employee roles and training needs, its potential to alter customer interaction and satisfaction, and its alignment with Chipotle's operational standards and brand promise. This comprehensive review ensures that the benefits of the technology are weighed against potential drawbacks, leading to a more informed and responsible decision. This aligns with general business ethics principles of due diligence and responsible innovation, ensuring that technological advancements serve, rather than hinder, the company's overall mission and stakeholder interests. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach is to prioritize immediate cost savings above all other considerations. This fails to account for the potential long-term costs associated with employee turnover due to dissatisfaction, decreased productivity from inadequate training, or damage to brand reputation from a decline in customer service. Such a myopic focus can lead to significant unforeseen expenses and operational disruptions, violating principles of sound business management and stakeholder responsibility. Another incorrect approach is to implement the technology without any employee consultation or feedback. This disregards the valuable insights employees possess about daily operations and customer interactions. It can foster resentment, reduce morale, and lead to the technology being used ineffectively or even resisted, ultimately undermining its intended benefits. Ethically, it demonstrates a lack of respect for the workforce and a failure to engage in transparent communication. A third incorrect approach is to assume that the technology will automatically improve customer experience without verifying this through customer feedback or pilot testing. This overlooks the possibility that changes in service delivery, even if intended to be efficient, might be perceived negatively by customers. It risks alienating the customer base and negatively impacting sales, a critical failure in understanding the holistic impact of operational changes. Professional reasoning. Professionals should approach decisions involving new technology by first defining the problem the technology aims to solve and the desired outcomes. They should then identify all potential stakeholders, employees, customers, management, shareholders, and consider the impact on each. A structured impact assessment, including pilot programs and feedback mechanisms, is crucial. This process involves gathering data, analyzing risks and benefits, and developing mitigation strategies for potential negative consequences. Transparency and open communication with all affected parties are paramount throughout the decision-making and implementation phases. Question 3. Stakeholder feedback indicates a strong desire among a vocal segment of customers for a new, highly complex menu item that requires specialized ingredients and preparation techniques. What is the most appropriate approach to assess the potential impact of introducing this item? Option A. Conduct a comprehensive impact assessment that evaluates operational feasibility, supply chain capacity, employee training needs, potential waste generation, and projected financial returns, alongside customer demand. Option B. Prioritize the new item if it aligns with current ingredient availability, assuming operational challenges can be managed through ad hoc adjustments. Option C. Immediately approve the new menu item to capitalize on positive customer sentiment and address the feedback directly. Option D. Delegate the decision to the marketing team to gauge customer interest through a limited time offer and gather feedback solely on sales performance. The correct answer is A. Conduct a comprehensive impact assessment that evaluates operational feasibility, supply chain capacity, employee training needs, potential waste generation, and projected financial returns, alongside customer demand. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the immediate needs and perceptions of various stakeholders with the long-term strategic implications of a new initiative. The core difficulty lies in accurately assessing the potential impact of a new menu item on different groups, including customers, employees, suppliers, and the local community, while adhering to Chipotle's commitment to responsible sourcing and operational efficiency. Careful judgment is required to move beyond superficial feedback and conduct a thorough, data-driven impact assessment. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a comprehensive and systematic evaluation of potential consequences. This aligns with Chipotle's stated values and operational guidelines, which emphasize informed decision-making and a commitment to sustainability and ethical practices. A structured impact assessment, considering both positive and negative effects across multiple dimensions, operational, financial, environmental, social, allows for proactive mitigation of risks and maximization of benefits. This methodical approach ensures that decisions are not solely reactive to feedback, but are grounded in a deep understanding of the initiative's broader implications, thereby upholding Chipotle's reputation and long-term viability. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on immediate customer preference, without considering operational feasibility or supplier capacity, fails to meet professional standards. This could lead to supply chain disruptions, increased waste, or employee burnout, all of which have negative ethical and operational consequences. Another incorrect approach that dismisses employee concerns about workload or training needs ignores the human element of operational change, potentially leading to decreased morale and productivity, which is an ethical failing in employee management. An approach that overlooks potential environmental impacts, such as increased packaging waste or changes in ingredient sourcing, would violate Chipotle's commitment to sustainability and could result in regulatory scrutiny or reputational damage. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with clearly defining the scope and objectives of the impact assessment. This involves identifying all relevant stakeholders and the potential impacts on each group. Next, data collection methods should be established to gather both qualitative and quantitative information. This might include surveys, focus groups, operational data analysis, and environmental audits. The gathered data should then be analyzed to identify key risks and opportunities. Finally, a comprehensive report should be generated, outlining findings and recommending a course of action, including mitigation strategies for identified risks. This structured process ensures that all critical factors are considered, leading to more robust and responsible decision-making. Question 4. The risk matrix shows a moderate likelihood of a minor data breach affecting a small subset of customer loyalty program members, with a projected direct financial loss of less than $5,000. Which approach to assessing the impact of this risk best aligns with responsible business practices and safeguarding Chipotle's interests? Option A. Assess the potential for reputational damage, customer churn, and increased regulatory scrutiny, even if the direct financial loss is minimal. Option B. Delegate the impact assessment entirely to the IT department, assuming they have the technical expertise to quantify all relevant risks. Option C. Focus solely on the direct financial loss, as it is below the threshold for significant financial impact. Option D. Consider the impact only if the likelihood of the breach increases to high. The correct answer is C. Focus solely on the direct financial loss, as it is below the threshold for significant financial impact. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing operational efficiency with the potential for significant negative impacts on Chipotle's brand reputation and customer trust. The impact assessment, topic within the Chipotle hiring assessment test syllabus, demands an understanding of how various risks, even those seemingly minor in isolation, can cascade and create substantial harm. The challenge lies in accurately predicting and quantifying these impacts, especially when dealing with qualitative factors like customer perception and regulatory scrutiny. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a comprehensive and proactive evaluation of potential consequences by considering a broad spectrum of impacts: financial, operational, reputational, and legal, and by involving relevant stakeholders. The assessment moves beyond a superficial review. This thoroughness ensures that potential vulnerabilities are identified early, allowing for the development of robust mitigation strategies. This aligns with the ethical imperative to operate with integrity and to safeguard the company's stakeholders, including customers and employees, from undue harm. It also implicitly supports compliance with general business ethics and any specific Chipotle policies that mandate responsible risk management. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on immediate financial costs fails to recognize the long-term damage that reputational harm can inflict. This is a regulatory and ethical failure because it neglects the broader responsibility to maintain customer trust and brand integrity, which are critical intangible assets. Another incorrect approach that dismisses potential impacts due to their low probability, without adequately considering the severity of the consequence if they were to occur, is also a failure. This demonstrates a lack of due diligence and an insufficient understanding of risk appetite, potentially leading to unforeseen and significant disruptions. Ignoring the potential for negative media attention or social media backlash is a critical oversight, as these can rapidly escalate and have devastating effects on a company's public image and sales, representing a failure to anticipate and manage reputational risks. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured risk assessment framework. This begins with identifying potential risks, followed by analyzing their likelihood and impact. Crucially, it requires engaging diverse perspectives from different departments, e.g., operations, marketing, legal, IT, to ensure a holistic view of potential consequences. Prioritizing risks based on their assessed impact and likelihood, and then developing appropriate mitigation plans, is essential. Regular review and updating of risk assessments are also vital, as the business environment and potential risks are constantly evolving. Question 5. Assessment of the ethical and regulatory implications of collecting candidate information during the hiring process at Chipotle Mexican Grill, considering the need to balance operational efficiency with candidate privacy rights under U.S. federal and state laws. Option A. Collect all available information from a candidate's social media profiles, assuming that because it is publicly accessible, consent is not required for its use in the hiring decision. Option B. Collect all information provided by the candidate on their resume and application, and assume that by applying, candidates have implicitly consented to the collection of any other information that might be found online. Option C. Collect only information directly relevant to the job requirements and explicitly stated in the application, and seek candidate consent before gathering any additional information, such as from social media profiles. Option D. Collect all publicly available information from a candidate's social media profiles to gain a comprehensive understanding of their background, without specifically informing them that this information is being gathered for hiring purposes. The correct answer is C. Collect only information directly relevant to the job requirements and explicitly stated in the application, and seek candidate consent before gathering any additional information, such as from social media profiles. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an individual to balance the immediate need for operational efficiency with the long-term implications of data privacy and security. particularly within the context of Chipotle's hiring practices. The core of the challenge lies in understanding the scope of personal information that can be collected and processed during the hiring phase, and ensuring that any data handling aligns with relevant U.S. federal and state privacy laws, such as the California Consumer Privacy Act, CCPA, if applicable to the candidate pool, and general principles of data minimization and purpose limitation. Careful judgment is required to avoid overcollection or inappropriate use of candidate data, which could lead to legal repercussions, reputational damage, and erosion of trust. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes obtaining explicit consent for any data collection beyond what is strictly necessary for the immediate hiring decision. This aligns with the principle of data minimization, a cornerstone of many privacy regulations, which dictates that only data relevant and necessary for a specific, stated purpose should be collected. Furthermore, it upholds the ethical obligation to be transparent with candidates about how their information will be used and stored. This proactive stance on consent and transparency builds trust and mitigates legal risks associated with unauthorized data processing or breaches. An incorrect approach that involves collecting all available information from social media profiles without explicit consent for that specific purpose is professionally unacceptable. This represents a significant regulatory failure, as it likely violates data privacy laws that require consent for processing personal information, especially sensitive data that might be gleaned from social media. Ethically, it is a breach of privacy and can be perceived as intrusive and untrustworthy. Another incorrect approach, collecting only publicly available information but not informing candidates about this practice, also poses a regulatory risk. While the information might be public, the act of systematically collecting and potentially storing it for hiring purposes without candidate awareness or consent can still fall under data processing regulations, especially if it leads to profiling or discriminatory practices. It fails to meet the transparency requirements inherent in responsible data handling. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear understanding of the data privacy landscape relevant to the jurisdiction. This includes identifying what constitutes personal information, understanding consent requirements, and adhering to principles of data minimization and purpose limitation. Before collecting any candidate data, professionals should ask, is this data absolutely necessary for the hiring decision? Have we obtained explicit consent for collecting and processing this specific type of data? Are we transparent with candidates about our data practices? If the answer to any of these is no, then alternative, compliant methods should be sought. Question 6. Quality control measures reveal a batch of lettuce showing signs of potential spoilage, including discoloration and an unusual odor, prior to its scheduled use in customer orders. The restaurant is experiencing a high volume of customers, and delaying service could lead to significant customer dissatisfaction and lost revenue. What is the most appropriate immediate course of action? Option A. Immediately remove the affected lettuce from service, isolate it, and initiate a documented investigation into the cause of spoilage, including reviewing supplier records and internal handling procedures. Option B. Continue to use the lettuce for customer orders while a quick visual inspection is performed by the shift manager to determine if it is still acceptable. Option C. Instruct kitchen staff to carefully trim away any discolored parts of the lettuce and use the remaining portions. Option D. Discard the entire batch of lettuce without further investigation to avoid any potential risk, and inform the supplier later. The correct answer is A. Immediately remove the affected lettuce from service, isolate it, and initiate a documented investigation into the cause of spoilage, including reviewing supplier records and internal handling procedures. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a challenge because it requires balancing immediate operational needs with long-term brand integrity and regulatory compliance. A food service establishment like Chipotle operates under strict health and safety regulations, and any deviation can have severe consequences, including legal penalties, reputational damage, and harm to customers. The pressure to maintain service speed and customer satisfaction can sometimes conflict with the meticulous nature of quality control. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a thorough, documented investigation that prioritizes food safety and regulatory adherence. This means immediately isolating the affected product, conducting a root cause analysis to understand how the contamination occurred, and implementing corrective actions to prevent recurrence. This aligns with U.S. Food and Drug Administration, FDA food code principles, which mandate that food establishments prevent foodborne illnesses through proper handling, storage, and preparation. Documenting these steps is crucial for demonstrating due diligence to regulatory bodies and for internal continuous improvement. This approach upholds the ethical responsibility to protect public health and the legal obligation to comply with food safety laws. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves discarding the product without a proper investigation. While seemingly decisive, this fails to identify the root cause, leaving the potential for the issue to recur. It also misses an opportunity to gather data for process improvement and may not satisfy regulatory requirements for incident reporting or investigation if the contamination was significant. Another incorrect approach is to continue serving the product while investigating. This is a direct violation of food safety principles and regulations. The primary ethical and legal obligation is to prevent harm to consumers. Continuing to serve potentially contaminated food exposes customers to significant health risks and would likely result in severe penalties from health authorities, including fines, temporary closure, and permanent damage to the brand's reputation. A third incorrect approach is to rely solely on anecdotal evidence or staff memory to address the issue. Food safety requires objective data and systematic processes. Relying on informal methods is insufficient for a thorough investigation, makes it difficult to prove compliance to regulators, and increases the likelihood of overlooking critical details that could prevent future incidents. This approach lacks the rigor demanded by food safety regulations and ethical standards. Professional reasoning. Professionals in the food service industry must adopt a proactive and systematic approach to quality control. This involves establishing clear protocols for identifying, investigating, and resolving food safety issues. When a potential problem arises, the decision-making process should prioritize customer safety above all else, followed by thorough investigation, documentation, and implementation of corrective actions. This framework ensures compliance with regulations, protects the brand, and fosters a culture of continuous improvement in food safety practices. Question 7. Strategic planning requires a methodical approach to introducing new menu items to ensure brand consistency and operational success. Chipotle is considering launching a new signature burrito nationwide. Which of the following strategies best balances innovation with risk mitigation and operational readiness? Option A. Prioritize the new burrito's introduction by immediately reallocating existing staff to focus on its preparation, with minimal additional training and sourcing ingredients from the lowest-cost suppliers available. Option B. Launch the new burrito across all Chipotle locations simultaneously, supported by a large-scale national advertising campaign to generate immediate customer excitement. Option C. Introduce the new burrito only through online ordering platforms initially, without extensive in-store testing or staff training, to gauge demand before a full rollout. Option D. Implement a phased rollout, beginning with extensive market research, pilot testing in a limited number of diverse markets, and comprehensive training for staff in those pilot locations before a broader expansion. The correct answer is D. Implement a phased rollout, beginning with extensive market research, pilot testing in a limited number of diverse markets, and comprehensive training for staff in those pilot locations before a broader expansion. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a challenge in balancing rapid expansion with maintaining consistent brand standards and operational efficiency. Chipotle, as a fast casual restaurant, relies heavily on its ability to deliver a predictable and high-quality customer experience across all locations. Rapid growth can strain existing training programs, supply chains, and management oversight, potentially leading to a dilution of the brand's core values and operational excellence. Careful judgment is required to ensure that growth does not compromise the foundational elements that have contributed to Chipotle's success. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach emphasizes a phased rollout of new menu items, prioritizing thorough market research, pilot testing in select locations, and comprehensive staff training. This aligns with best practices in product development and operational management within the food service industry. Regulatory frameworks, while not explicitly detailed here, generally encourage responsible product introductions that ensure food safety, accurate labeling, and consistent quality. Ethically, this approach demonstrates a commitment to customers by ensuring new offerings meet expected standards and to employees by providing adequate preparation. This methodical process minimizes risks associated with widespread product failures, supply chain disruptions, and negative customer feedback, thereby protecting the brand's reputation and long-term viability. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves launching the new menu item nationwide immediately without prior testing. This poses significant regulatory risks, as it could lead to widespread issues with food preparation, ingredient sourcing, or allergen information, potentially violating food safety regulations and leading to costly recalls or fines. Ethically, it is irresponsible to expose a large customer base to an untested product, risking dissatisfaction and potential health concerns. Another incorrect approach focuses solely on marketing and promotion, neglecting operational readiness. This can result in overwhelmed staff, inconsistent product quality, and negative customer experiences, damaging brand loyalty and potentially leading to customer complaints that could escalate to regulatory scrutiny if they involve safety or misrepresentation. A third incorrect approach prioritizes cost-cutting and ingredient sourcing for the new item without ensuring it meets quality standards. This risks compromising the taste, texture, or nutritional profile of the product, leading to customer dissatisfaction and potential brand damage. It could also lead to regulatory issues if the substituted ingredients are not approved or if labeling becomes inaccurate. Professional reasoning. Professionals in this situation should employ a structured decision-making process that begins with a thorough risk assessment. This involves identifying potential operational, financial, and reputational risks associated with different rollout strategies. Next, they should gather data through market research and pilot programs to inform their decisions. The chosen strategy should then be evaluated against Chipotle's strategic goals, brand values, and regulatory obligations. Continuous monitoring and feedback loops are essential to adapt the strategy as needed and ensure successful implementation. This systematic approach prioritizes informed decision-making, risk mitigation, and the long-term health of the business. Question 8. To address the challenge of a customer expressing dissatisfaction with a recent online order and requesting a refund, which also involves the customer sharing their personal contact details to facilitate the refund, what is the most appropriate course of action for a Chipotle team member to take, ensuring compliance with company policy and relevant U.S. data privacy regulations? Option A. Politely inform the customer that all refund requests must be processed through the official Chipotle customer service portal or app, and offer to guide them through that process to ensure their information is handled securely and according to policy. Option B. Ask the customer for their social security number to verify their identity before proceeding with any refund discussion, as this is a standard verification procedure. Option C. Immediately process the refund by taking the customer's credit card details and issuing a refund directly, without involving the official customer service channels, to expedite resolution. Option D. Advise the customer that their concerns cannot be addressed at the store level and that they should contact corporate headquarters directly, providing no further assistance. The correct answer is A. Politely inform the customer that all refund requests must be processed through the official Chipotle customer service portal or app, and offer to guide them through that process to ensure their information is handled securely and according to policy. Explanation. The scenario presents a common challenge in a fast-paced retail environment where adherence to company policy and regulatory guidelines is paramount, especially concerning customer interactions and data handling. The professional challenge lies in balancing the immediate need to resolve a customer complaint with the imperative to protect sensitive customer information and maintain compliance with data privacy regulations. Chipotle, as a U.S.-based company, operates under U.S. federal and state laws governing data privacy and consumer protection. The correct approach prioritizes a structured, policy-driven resolution that safeguards customer data. This aligns with best professional practice by demonstrating a commitment to customer privacy, which is a legal and ethical obligation. By following established procedures for handling sensitive information, the employee upholds Chipotle's commitment to data security and avoids potential legal repercussions. This approach also builds customer trust by showing that their information is handled with care and professionalism. An incorrect approach that involves immediately sharing the customer's personal information with a third party without proper authorization or verification would constitute a significant regulatory and ethical failure. This could violate data privacy laws such as the California Consumer Privacy Act, CCPA, or other state-specific regulations, leading to fines and reputational damage. Another incorrect approach, such as dismissing the customer's concerns without proper investigation or documentation, fails to meet customer service standards and could also lead to regulatory scrutiny if the underlying issue involves a potential violation of consumer rights or safety. A third incorrect approach, which involves fabricating information to appease the customer, is unethical and can lead to further complications and legal issues if discovered. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with understanding the core issue, identifying relevant company policies and applicable regulations, and then selecting the course of action that best balances customer satisfaction with legal and ethical compliance. This involves active listening, clear communication, and a commitment to following established protocols for data handling and complaint resolution. Question 9. The control framework reveals a situation where a team member, under pressure during a busy lunch rush, appears to have used the same tongs for raw chicken and then immediately for cooked chicken without proper sanitization. This observation was made by a shift leader. What is the most appropriate immediate action for the shift leader to take to uphold Chipotle's commitment to food safety and comply with relevant U.S. food safety regulations? Option A. Advise the team member to be more careful next time, but allow them to continue using the tongs to maintain service speed. Option B. Document the incident for a future training session, but allow the team member to continue their tasks to avoid disrupting the workflow. Option C. Immediately stop the use of the tongs, discard any potentially contaminated cooked chicken, and instruct the team member on proper sanitation procedures, reinforcing the importance of preventing cross-contamination. Option D. Publicly address the team member's mistake in front of other staff to emphasize the seriousness of food safety violations. The correct answer is C. Immediately stop the use of the tongs, discard any potentially contaminated cooked chicken, and instruct the team member on proper sanitation procedures, reinforcing the importance of preventing cross-contamination. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between maintaining operational efficiency and adhering to strict food safety protocols. The pressure to serve customers quickly can lead to shortcuts that compromise hygiene standards, potentially exposing customers to foodborne illnesses. Careful judgment is required to balance speed of service with the non-negotiable imperative of food safety. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes customer well-being and regulatory compliance above all else. By immediately addressing the observed issue and implementing corrective actions, the team demonstrates a commitment to the Chipotle's food safety standards and relevant U.S. food safety regulations, such as those outlined by the FDA's Food Code, which mandates proper temperature control and prevention of cross-contamination. This proactive stance minimizes risk and upholds the company's reputation. An incorrect approach that involves overlooking the observed issue due to time constraints would be a significant regulatory and ethical failure. This demonstrates a disregard for food safety laws and ethical obligations to customers, potentially leading to severe health consequences and legal repercussions for the company. Another incorrect approach, such as a superficial fix without proper investigation, fails to address the root cause and leaves the risk of recurrence. This also violates the principle of due diligence required by food safety regulations. A third incorrect approach, which involves blaming an individual without a systemic review, fails to foster a culture of continuous improvement and may mask underlying control weaknesses. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with identifying the potential risk, assessing its severity, and then determining the most effective and compliant course of action. This involves consulting established protocols, understanding regulatory requirements, and communicating transparently with team members. The priority must always be the safety and well-being of the customer, supported by robust internal controls and a commitment to ethical conduct. Question 10. The evaluation methodology shows that a Chipotle restaurant manager has been informed by a crew member that their recent paycheck appears to be short for hours worked. The manager is under pressure from regional leadership to keep labor costs down and meet specific sales per labor hour targets for the current period. The manager is aware that accurately accounting for all time, including any off-the-clock work or minor tasks performed before or after scheduled shifts, is a critical compliance requirement under U.S. federal and state labor laws. What is the most appropriate course of action for the manager to take in this situation? Option A. Advise the crew member that payroll has been processed according to company policy and that they should accept the current amount, as labor cost targets are a priority. Option B. Ignore the crew member's concern, assuming it is a minor error that will resolve itself in the next pay cycle, and focus on meeting the labor cost targets. Option C. Investigate the crew member's claim by reviewing time records, speaking with the crew member to understand their specific concerns, and consulting with the Human Resources Department to ensure accurate payroll processing and compliance with wage and hour laws. Option D. Immediately adjust the crew member's payroll to reflect the perceived shortage to avoid further issues and maintain employee satisfaction. The correct answer is C. Investigate the crew member's claim by reviewing time records, speaking with the crew member to understand their specific concerns, and consulting with the Human Resources Department to ensure accurate payroll processing and compliance with wage and hour laws. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a manager's desire to meet performance targets and the ethical obligation to ensure accurate and compliant reporting. The pressure to achieve specific metrics can tempt individuals to overlook or misrepresent data, potentially leading to regulatory violations and damage to Chipotle's reputation. Careful judgment is required to balance business objectives with integrity. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes adherence to Chipotle's internal policies and relevant U.S. federal and state labor laws regarding wage and hour compliance. Specifically, it aligns with the Fair Labor Standards Act, FLSA, and any applicable state laws that mandate accurate recording of all hours worked and prompt payment of wages. By investigating the discrepancy and seeking clarification from the employee and HR, the manager demonstrates a commitment to fairness, accuracy, and legal compliance, which are foundational ethical principles in employment. This proactive and transparent approach prevents potential wage theft claims and ensures that employees are compensated correctly for all time worked. An incorrect approach that involves ignoring the employee's concern and proceeding with the payroll, as is, represents a significant regulatory and ethical failure. This could lead to violations of the FLSA, which requires employers to pay non-exempt employees for all hours worked, including overtime. Ethically, it demonstrates a disregard for employee well-being and a lack of integrity in financial reporting. Another incorrect approach, which is to immediately adjust the payroll without proper investigation or employee confirmation, while seemingly helpful, could also lead to errors and potential disputes if the initial payroll entry was, in fact, correct. It bypasses due process and could create an inaccurate record. Finally, an approach that involves pressuring the employee to accept the current payroll without addressing their concerns is a severe ethical breach and could be construed as retaliation or coercion, further violating labor laws and Chipotle's ethical standards. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with active listening and a commitment to understanding the employee's perspective. This should be followed by a thorough investigation, consulting relevant internal policies and external regulations. Transparency with the employee throughout the process is crucial. If a discrepancy is confirmed, corrective action should be taken promptly and accurately, with appropriate documentation. Escalation to HR or legal counsel should be considered if the situation is complex or involves potential significant noncompliance. The ultimate goal is to ensure fair treatment of employees and strict adherence to all applicable laws and company policies. Question 11. Risk assessment procedures indicate a potential lapse in hand-washing protocols among several team members during a busy lunch rush, observed by a shift leader. The shift leader is concerned about the immediate implications for food safety and the restaurant's compliance with Chipotle's established food safety standards. Option A. Immediately halt service in the affected area, retrain all team members on proper hand-washing and sanitization procedures, and conduct a follow-up observation to ensure compliance. Option B. Document the observation and address it during the next scheduled team meeting, assuming it was an isolated incident due to the high volume of customers. Option C. Instruct the team members involved to wash their hands thoroughly and continue with service, relying on the existing training to prevent future occurrences. Option D. Escalate the issue to corporate headquarters for a full audit of all Chipotle locations, as a single observation suggests a systemic failure. Correct answer is A. Immediately halt service in the affected area, retrain all team members on proper hand washing and sanitization procedures, and conduct a follow-up observation to ensure compliance. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between maintaining operational efficiency and adhering to food safety regulations. The pressure to serve customers quickly can lead to shortcuts that compromise hygiene standards. Careful judgment is required to balance customer expectations with the absolute priority of preventing foodborne illness. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it directly addresses the identified risk through established food safety protocols. Implementing immediate corrective actions, such as retraining staff on proper hand washing and sanitization, and conducting a thorough review of current procedures, aligns with the principles of a robust food safety management system. This proactive and systematic response minimizes the risk of contamination and ensures compliance with regulations designed to protect public health. It demonstrates a commitment to a culture of safety, which is paramount in the food service industry. An incorrect approach that involves dismissing the observation as a minor issue and relying solely on existing, unverified procedures fails to acknowledge the potential severity of the risk. This constitutes a regulatory failure by neglecting to investigate and rectify a potential breach of food safety standards, which could lead to violations of health codes and potential legal repercussions. Ethically, it prioritizes expediency over the well-being of customers. Another incorrect approach, which involves only addressing the specific instance without investigating the root cause or reinforcing broader training, is also professionally unacceptable. This represents a superficial fix that does not prevent recurrence. It is a regulatory failure because it does not establish a system to ensure ongoing compliance, and an ethical failure as it does not demonstrate a commitment to consistently safe food handling practices. A professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured approach. 1. Identify the risk and its potential impact. 2. Consult relevant food safety regulations and internal policies. 3. Implement immediate containment and corrective actions. 4. Investigate the root cause of the issue. 5. Reinforce training and update procedures as necessary. 6. Monitor for effectiveness and continuous improvement. This systematic process ensures that risks are managed effectively and that regulatory and ethical obligations are met. Question 12. Consider a scenario where a Chipotle restaurant manager, facing pressure to meet weekly sales targets, asks a shift leader to slightly adjust the reported sales figures for a few transactions to make the numbers appear more favorable. The shift leader knows this involves misrepresenting actual customer purchases. The shift leader is aware of Chipotle's internal policies regarding accurate record keeping and general U.S. federal guidelines on business integrity. Option A. Fulfill the manager's request by making minor adjustments to the sales figures to help the restaurant meet its targets, assuming the changes are small and unlikely to be detected. Option B. Proceed with the manager's request, but document the conversation and the adjustments made in a personal notebook for future reference. Option C. Politely refuse the manager's request, citing Chipotle's policies on accurate record keeping and the importance of maintaining truthful financial data, and offer to explore legitimate ways to improve sales performance. Option D. Report the manager's request to the local health department, as the manager's actions might indicate a broader disregard for regulations. Correct answer is C. Politely refuse the manager's request, citing Chipotle's policies on accurate record keeping and the importance of maintaining truthful financial data, and offer to explore legitimate ways to improve sales performance. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a manager's desire to meet performance targets and the ethical obligation to ensure accurate and compliant reporting. The manager's pressure to inflate sales figures, even if seemingly minor, directly contravenes principles of honesty and integrity, which are foundational to professional conduct and regulatory compliance. Careful judgment is required to navigate this pressure while upholding ethical standards and legal requirements. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes accurate record keeping and adherence to Chipotle's internal policies and relevant U.S. federal and state labor laws. Specifically, it aligns with the principles of truthful financial reporting and avoids any actions that could be construed as fraudulent or misleading. By refusing to falsify records and instead seeking clarification and adhering to proper procedures, the employee demonstrates integrity and a commitment to compliance, which are essential for maintaining trust with customers, stakeholders, and regulatory bodies. This approach also protects the company from potential legal repercussions and reputational damage. An incorrect approach that involves inflating sales figures, even with the manager's encouragement, represents a significant regulatory and ethical failure. This action could violate U.S. federal laws such as the Sarbanes-Oxley Act, which mandates accurate financial reporting for public companies, and potentially state-specific fraud statutes. Ethically, it breaches the duty of honesty and integrity owed to the employer and the public. Another incorrect approach, such as passively complying with the manager's request without objection, also constitutes a failure. While not actively falsifying records, it demonstrates a lack of professional courage and a willingness to be complicit in unethical behavior, which can still lead to regulatory scrutiny and damage professional reputation. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear understanding of company policies and relevant regulations. When faced with pressure to act unethically or illegally, the professional should first attempt to understand the request and its implications. If the request appears to violate ethical standards or legal requirements, the next step is to clearly and respectfully refuse to comply, explaining the reasoning based on policy or law. If the pressure persists, escalating the concern to a higher level of management, HR, or a compliance department is crucial. Documenting all interactions and decisions is also a vital part of this process to protect oneself and provide a clear record. Question 13. The investigation demonstrates that a restaurant manager, under pressure to meet monthly sales targets, has noticed a pattern of minor, but consistent, discrepancies between the reported daily sales figures and the actual cash and credit card receipts. The manager suspects that a shift leader may be subtly manipulating the point-of-sale system to make the reported sales appear slightly higher than actual, thereby masking minor inventory shrinkage or operational inefficiencies. The manager is concerned about the potential for these discrepancies to accumulate and misrepresent the restaurant's true financial performance, which could have implications for internal reporting and potentially external financial statements if the issue is widespread. What is the most appropriate course of action for the manager to take in this situation? Adhering to U.S. regulatory frameworks and ethical business practices. Option A. Ignore the discrepancies, assuming they are minor and unlikely to have a material impact on overall financial reporting, and focus on meeting the sales targets. Option B. Document the observed discrepancies meticulously, including dates, amounts, and any supporting evidence, and report the findings to their direct supervisor or the appropriate internal compliance department for investigation. Option C. Immediately confront the shift leader, demanding an explanation and threatening disciplinary action if the discrepancies continue. Option D. Attempt to correct the discrepancies by adjusting future reports to balance them out, without formally reporting the issue or investigating its cause. The correct answer is C. Immediately confront the shift leader, demanding an explanation and threatening disciplinary action if the discrepancies continue. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a manager's desire to achieve performance targets and the ethical obligation to ensure accurate and compliant reporting. The pressure to meet sales goals can tempt individuals to misrepresent data, which has significant implications for financial reporting, investor confidence, and regulatory compliance. Careful judgment is required to navigate this pressure while upholding integrity. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes accurate financial reporting and adherence to internal controls and external regulations. By escalating the issue through the proper channels, the manager ensures that the discrepancy is investigated objectively and that corrective actions are taken in accordance with Chipotle's policies and relevant U.S. securities laws. This upholds the principle of transparency and accountability, which are foundational to ethical business conduct and regulatory compliance. An incorrect approach that involves overlooking the discrepancy or attempting to fix it without proper documentation or investigation fails to address the root cause and could lead to material misstatements in financial reports. This violates the Securities Exchange Act of 1934, which requires accurate and timely reporting of financial information, and potentially Sarbanes-Oxley Act, SOX, provisions related to internal controls over financial reporting. It also breaches ethical duties of honesty and integrity. Another incorrect approach, such as directly confronting the subordinate without involving management or HR, could escalate the situation inappropriately, potentially leading to legal or HR issues for the manager and the company. It bypasses established procedures for addressing performance or conduct issues and may not result in a resolution that aligns with company policy or legal requirements. A professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve 1. Identifying the discrepancy and its potential impact. 2. Consulting internal policies and procedures for reporting and addressing such issues. 3. Gathering objective facts and documentation. 4. Escalating the concern through the appropriate reporting chain, e.g., to one's direct supervisor, HR, or internal audit in a timely manner. 5. Cooperating fully with any subsequent investigation. 6. Maintaining confidentiality and professionalism throughout the process. Question 14. Upon reviewing a customer's complaint about the quality of their burrito, which contained an ingredient they found unpalatable, what is the most appropriate course of action for a Chipotle team member to take, considering the need to balance customer satisfaction with company policy? Option A. Promise the customer a complimentary meal on their next visit without consulting a manager or checking if this is within policy, to appease them in the moment. Option B. Inform the customer that Chipotle's policy does not allow for refunds or replacements based on personal taste preferences and ask them to leave. Option C. Immediately offer a full refund for the burrito without asking any further questions or verifying the complaint, as customer satisfaction is paramount. Option D. Apologize for the customer's experience. Ask for specific details about what they found unpalatable, and offer to remake the burrito or provide a refund, according to Chipotle's established customer service guidelines. The correct answer is D. Apologize for the customer's experience. Ask for specific details about what they found unpalatable, and offer to remake the burrito or provide a refund according to Chipotle's established customer service guidelines. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a challenge in balancing customer service with adherence to company policy, specifically regarding the handling of customer complaints about food quality. The employee must assess the validity of the complaint, the potential impact on customer satisfaction and loyalty, and the established procedures for resolving such issues, all while operating within the operational constraints of a busy restaurant environment. The risk of either overstepping authority or failing to adequately address a legitimate concern requires careful judgment. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach demonstrates best professional practice by prioritizing customer satisfaction while operating within established guidelines. It involves actively listening to the customer's concern, empathizing with their experience, and then clearly communicating the company's policy regarding refunds or replacements. This approach respects the customer's perspective, offers a tangible solution aligned with company procedures, and empowers the employee to resolve the issue efficiently. This aligns with the implicit expectation of good customer service and operational efficiency often found in fast casual dining environments, where customer retention is key. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves immediately offering a full refund without attempting to understand the specific nature of the complaint or consulting policy. This represents a failure in due diligence and potentially a misuse of company resources, as it bypasses established procedures for verifying and addressing food quality issues. Could also set a precedent for unwarranted refunds, impacting profitability and encouraging fraudulent claims. Another incorrect approach is to dismiss the customer's complaint outright, citing policy without any attempt at de-escalation or problem-solving. This demonstrates poor customer service, a lack of empathy, and a failure to uphold the company's commitment to customer satisfaction. Ethically, it can lead to negative word of mouth, damage the brand's reputation, and result in lost business. A further incorrect approach is to promise a resolution that is outside of the employee's authority or company policy, such as offering a complimentary meal for a future visit without proper authorization. This creates an unfulfilled expectation for the customer and can lead to further dissatisfaction when the promise cannot be kept. It also demonstrates a lack of understanding of operational boundaries and reporting structures. Professional reasoning. Professionals should approach customer complaints by first actively listening and gathering information. They should then consult relevant company policies and procedures to understand the authorized methods of resolution. If the situation falls within their purview, they should offer a solution that aligns with policy and aims for customer satisfaction. If the situation requires escalation or a decision beyond their authority, they should clearly communicate this to the customer and explain the next steps, ensuring a smooth and transparent process. This systematic approach ensures fairness, consistency, and adherence to operational and ethical standards. Question 15. The assessment process reveals a candidate's understanding of Chipotle's commitment to food safety and quality. Imagine a scenario where a batch of prepped ingredients, intended for use within a 4-hour window, has been inadvertently left at room temperature for 6 hours due to an equipment malfunction. The ingredients appear visually normal and have no discernible odor. How should this situation be handled to uphold Chipotle's standards and regulatory compliance? Option A. The ingredients should be used, but with a warning to customers about potential quality issues. Option B. The ingredients should be immediately discarded to prevent any potential risk to customer health, aligning with strict food safety protocols. Option C. The ingredients should be thoroughly recooked to kill any potential bacteria before being used. Option D. The ingredients should be held for an additional period to see if any negative changes become apparent before deciding on their disposal. The correct answer is B. The ingredients should be immediately discarded to prevent any potential risk to customer health, aligning with strict food safety protocols. Explanation. The assessment process reveals a candidate's understanding of Chipotle's commitment to food safety and quality, a cornerstone of its brand reputation and regulatory compliance. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing operational efficiency with unwavering adherence to food safety standards, especially when faced with time pressures or potential cost-saving temptations. A candidate's response demonstrates their ability to prioritize public health and regulatory mandates over immediate operational convenience. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it directly aligns with Chipotle's internal policies and external regulatory requirements, such as those enforced by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, FDA, and local health departments. Prioritizing the immediate disposal of potentially compromised ingredients, even if it incurs a short-term cost or delay, upholds the highest standards of food safety, prevents potential outbreaks, and safeguards customer trust. This proactive stance is ethically sound and legally defensible, minimizing risk to both the public and the company. An incorrect approach that suggests using ingredients that may have exceeded their safe holding time, even if they appear visually acceptable, represents a significant regulatory and ethical failure. This disregards established food safety protocols designed to prevent bacterial growth and foodborne illnesses. Such an approach could lead to violations of the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act, resulting in fines, store closures, and severe reputational damage. Ethically, it prioritizes profit or convenience over the well-being of customers. Another incorrect approach that proposes a wait-and-see attitude regarding the compromised ingredients is equally problematic. Food safety is not a matter of chance. It relies on strict adherence to established timelines and procedures. Delaying a decision or hoping for the best in a food safety context is a dereliction of duty and a direct contravention of preventative measures. This approach fails to acknowledge the inherent risks associated with improper food handling and storage. The professional reasoning process for similar situations should involve a clear understanding of established food safety protocols, including temperature control, holding times, and proper storage. When faced with uncertainty or a deviation from these protocols, the immediate and overriding priority must be the safety of the food and the consumer. This involves a risk-averse decision-making framework where any doubt about the safety or integrity of food leads to its immediate removal from service. Professionals should be empowered and expected to make decisions that uphold these standards, even if it means temporary inconvenience or additional cost. Question 16. Examination of the data shows that a hiring manager at Chipotle is under pressure to fill a critical restaurant team member position quickly due to staff shortages. They have a candidate in mind who is a friend of a current employee and seems like a good fit based on a brief initial conversation. However, there are several other promising candidates who have completed the formal application and initial screening process. The hiring manager is considering bypassing further formal interviews for the friend of the employee to expedite the hiring, Which of the following approaches best aligns with professional hiring practices and regulatory expectations for Chipotle? Option A. Proceed with hiring the friend of the current employee, but only after conducting a very brief, informal chat to confirm their interest, and then document this as a formal interview. Option B. Conduct thorough interviews with all promising candidates, including the friend of the current employee, and objectively evaluate each against the defined job requirements and Chipotle's hiring policies, documenting the entire process. Option C. Hire the friend of the current employee immediately to address the staffing shortage, as their perceived fit is sufficient for a frontline position. Option D. Focus solely on the candidates who have already completed the full screening process and disregard the friend of the current employee, even if they appear qualified, to avoid any perception of favoritism. Correct answer is B. Conduct thorough interviews with all promising candidates, including the friend of the current employee, and objectively evaluate each against the defined job requirements and Chipotle's hiring policies, documenting the entire process. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an individual to navigate potential conflicts of interest and ensure fair and transparent practices within a hiring process. The pressure to fill a position quickly can lead to overlooking crucial steps or making biased decisions. Careful judgment is required to uphold the integrity of the hiring process and comply with Chipotle's internal policies and relevant employment laws. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a structured and unbiased evaluation of all candidates. This aligns with Chipotle's commitment to fair hiring and avoids potential legal repercussions related to discrimination. Adhering to established interview protocols and documentation standards ensures that decisions are based on merit and qualifications, fostering a positive candidate experience and building a strong, diverse workforce. This approach also mitigates the risk of legal challenges by providing a clear, defensible record of the hiring process. An incorrect approach that involves prioritizing a candidate based on a personal connection, without a thorough evaluation of their qualifications against the job requirements and other candidates, represents a significant ethical and regulatory failure. This can lead to claims of favoritism or discrimination, violating principles of equal opportunity employment. Such an action undermines the credibility of the hiring process and can result in legal penalties and damage to Chipotle's reputation. Another incorrect approach, which involves rushing the interview process and making a decision without adequate information or comparison to other candidates, also constitutes a professional failure. This haste can lead to overlooking a more qualified candidate or hiring someone who is not a good fit for the role, resulting in poor performance, increased turnover, and potential legal issues if the chosen candidate's background is not properly vetted. It demonstrates a lack of diligence and commitment to finding the best possible hire. A third incorrect approach, which involves fabricating or selectively presenting information to justify a predetermined hiring decision, is a severe ethical breach and potentially fraudulent. This not only violates the principles of honesty and integrity, but also creates a false record of the hiring process, which can have serious legal consequences if discovered. It directly undermines the fairness and transparency expected in any professional hiring context. The professional reasoning process for similar situations should involve a commitment to a standardized and objective evaluation framework. This includes clearly defining job requirements, using consistent interview questions for all candidates, documenting all assessments thoroughly, and comparing candidates against objective criteria. When faced with time pressures, professionals should advocate for adequate resources and time to conduct a proper evaluation, rather than compromising on essential steps. If a personal connection exists, it should be disclosed, and the professional should recuse themselves from the decision-making process to maintain impartiality. Question 17. Performance analysis shows a candidate for a customer-facing role at Chipotle has disclosed a past misdemeanor conviction from several years ago. The conviction is not directly related to theft or violence, but involved a regulatory violation. The hiring manager is concerned about potential customer perception and team morale. What is the most appropriate next step according to Chipotle's hiring guidelines and U.S. labor law? Option A. Assume the conviction will negatively impact customer perception and team morale, and therefore decline to move forward with the candidate. Option B. Base the hiring decision solely on the fact that a conviction exists, without further investigation into its specifics or relevance. Option C. Immediately reject the candidate based on the disclosure of any criminal conviction to avoid potential future issues. Option D. Conduct a thorough review of the nature and recency of the conviction, its relevance to the specific job duties, and any evidence of rehabilitation before making a final hiring decision. Correct answer is D. Conduct a thorough review of the nature and recency of the conviction, its relevance to the specific job duties, and any evidence of rehabilitation before making a final hiring decision. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an individual to interpret and apply Chipotle's internal hiring policies and relevant U.S. labor laws, specifically the Fair Labor Standards Act, FLSA, and Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, EOC, guidelines, in a situation where a candidate's background might raise concerns about their suitability for a customer-facing role. The challenge lies in balancing the need to maintain a safe and positive work environment with the legal and ethical obligation to avoid discriminatory hiring practices. Careful judgment is required to distinguish between legitimate business concerns and potential bias. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a thorough, objective, and legally compliant evaluation of the candidate. This involves reviewing the specific nature of the past infraction, its relevance to the job requirements, and the candidate's demonstrated rehabilitation or growth since the incident. This aligns with EOC guidelines that prohibit discrimination based on protected characteristics and require employers to consider the nature and recency of any criminal record, ensuring that hiring decisions are job-related and consistent with business necessity. It also adheres to the FLSA principles of fair employment. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on the existence of a past infraction without further investigation is professionally unacceptable. This constitutes a potential violation of anti-discrimination laws, as it may lead to disparate impact on certain demographic groups. It fails to consider the individual's present ability to perform the job and may be considered an arbitrary rejection. Another incorrect approach that relies on assumptions or stereotypes about individuals with past infractions is also professionally unacceptable. This demonstrates a lack of objective assessment and can lead to discriminatory practices, violating both legal requirements and ethical standards of fairness. A third incorrect approach that prioritizes expediency over thoroughness, such as immediately rejecting the candidate based on a superficial review, is professionally unsound. This overlooks the legal and ethical obligations to conduct a fair and individualized assessment, potentially exposing Chipotle to legal challenges and reputational damage. The professional reasoning process for similar situations should involve 1. Understanding the specific job requirements and essential functions. 2. Reviewing relevant company policies and legal frameworks, e.g., FLSA, EOC guidance. 3. Conducting an individualized assessment of the candidate, considering the nature, gravity, and recency of any disclosed information, as well as evidence of rehabilitation. 4. Documenting the decision-making process thoroughly. 5. Consulting with HR or legal counsel if there is any uncertainty regarding compliance. Question 18. Operational review demonstrates that a batch of pre-portioned chicken, intended for use in tacos, was stored in a non-refrigerated area for approximately 2 hours longer than the maximum allowable time specified in Chipotle's Food Safety Manual, which aligns with FDA guidelines for temperature control of potentially hazardous foods. Option A. Immediately initiate a documented investigation into why the chicken was left out. Train the involved staff on proper storage procedures, and reinforce the importance of adhering to temperature control guidelines for all potentially hazardous foods. Option B. Temporarily halt all chicken preparation until a full audit of all storage procedures across all Chipotle locations can be completed. Option C. Discard the entire batch of chicken to err on the side of caution, but do not investigate the root cause as it is a one-time occurrence. Option D. Continue to use the chicken as it was only out for a short period, and no customer has reported illness, assuming it is still safe. The correct answer is A. Immediately initiate a documented investigation into why the chicken was left out, retrain the involved staff on proper storage procedures, and reinforce the importance of adhering to temperature control guidelines for all potentially hazardous foods. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge related to ensuring compliance with food safety regulations, specifically concerning the handling and storage of ingredients. The core difficulty lies in balancing operational efficiency with the absolute necessity of adhering to established food safety protocols to prevent contamination and potential health risks to customers. Careful judgment is required to identify deviations from standard operating procedures and to implement corrective actions that are both effective and timely. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it directly addresses the identified food safety lapse by initiating a thorough investigation and implementing immediate corrective actions. This aligns with the principles of proactive food safety management, which are mandated by regulatory frameworks such as the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, FDA Food Code, and Chipotle's own internal food safety policies. By documenting the issue, training staff, and reinforcing proper storage procedures, this approach demonstrates a commitment to preventing recurrence and maintaining a safe environment for food preparation and consumption. This is ethically sound as it prioritizes customer well-being and legally compliant as it adheres to food safety standards. An incorrect approach that involves simply discarding the affected ingredients without investigating the root cause fails to address the systemic issue. This could lead to repeated violations and a false sense of security. It is a regulatory failure because it does not ensure that the underlying cause of improper storage is identified and corrected, potentially leading to future contamination. Ethically, it is insufficient as it does not fully protect the customer from potential harm if the issue is not resolved. Another incorrect approach, which is to ignore the minor deviation as long as no immediate illness is reported, represents a significant regulatory and ethical failure. This reactive stance is contrary to the principles of preventive food safety. It is a regulatory failure because it violates the spirit and letter of food safety laws that require proactive measures to prevent hazards, not just respond to them. Ethically, it is unacceptable as it gambles with customer health and safety, prioritizing convenience over well-being. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a systematic approach. 1. Identify the deviation from established procedures and regulations. 2. Assess the potential risk associated with the deviation. 3. Initiate an immediate investigation to determine the root cause. 4. Implement appropriate corrective actions, including retraining and procedural reinforcement. 5. Document all findings and actions taken. 6. Monitor for effectiveness of corrective actions. This framework ensures that issues are addressed comprehensively, preventing recurrence and upholding the highest standards of food safety and customer care. Question 19. Analysis of how Chipotle Mexican Grill should ethically and effectively respond to a surge of negative online reviews concerning ingredient freshness, considering the potential for both genuine issues and isolated complaints, to inform operational adjustments. Option A. Make significant changes to supplier contracts and ingredient sourcing based on a single, highly critical online review that gained significant traction. Option B. Systematically collect and analyze all customer feedback regarding ingredient freshness, identifying recurring themes and specific locations or shifts experiencing issues before proposing targeted operational improvements. Option C. Instruct restaurant managers to dismiss all negative feedback about ingredient freshness as subjective customer preferences and maintain current operational procedures. Option D. Immediately implement a company-wide policy change to use only prepackaged ingredients for all menu items in response to the initial negative reviews. The correct answer is B. Systematically collect and analyze all customer feedback regarding ingredient freshness, identifying recurring themes and specific locations or shifts experiencing issues before proposing targeted operational improvements. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge related to the ethical handling of customer feedback and its potential impact on operational decisions. The core difficulty lies in balancing the desire to address customer concerns with the need to maintain objective decision-making and avoid bias. Careful judgment is required to ensure that feedback is used constructively without compromising fairness or leading to arbitrary changes. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it involves a systematic and objective evaluation of customer feedback. This aligns with Chipotle's commitment to quality and customer satisfaction, as well as general ethical business principles that advocate for data-driven decision-making. By aggregating feedback and identifying recurring themes, management can make informed decisions about operational improvements that are genuinely needed and beneficial to a wider customer base. This process also demonstrates transparency and a commitment to continuous improvement, fostering trust with both customers and employees. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on immediate, anecdotal complaints without broader analysis fails to uphold professional standards. This could lead to reactive and potentially ineffective changes, creating an environment where decisions are driven by the loudest voices rather than objective needs. Ethically, this approach could be seen as unfair to employees who are subjected to constant, unverified changes, and to customers who may not see lasting improvements if the root causes are not addressed. Another incorrect approach that dismisses all negative feedback as subjective or unhelpful is also professionally unacceptable. This demonstrates a lack of customer focus and a failure to recognize valuable insights that can drive positive change. Ethically, it suggests a disregard for customer experience and a potential violation of the implicit promise to provide a quality product and service. A third incorrect approach that involves making significant operational changes based on a single, highly critical review without further investigation is professionally unsound. This is an impulsive reaction that can lead to unnecessary disruption and expense. Ethically, it could unfairly penalize employees or alter processes based on potentially biased or isolated information, undermining the principle of fairness. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve 1. Establishing clear channels for feedback collection. 2. Implementing a system for categorizing and analyzing feedback for recurring themes and actionable insights. 3. Prioritizing issues based on their impact and feasibility of resolution. 4. Communicating changes and the rationale behind them to relevant stakeholders. And 5. Continuously monitoring the effectiveness of implemented changes. This structured approach ensures that decisions are informed, objective, and aligned with organizational goals and ethical responsibilities. Question 20. The investigation demonstrates that a Chipotle restaurant manager, upon receiving a complaint about a mobile order issue, immediately offered to look up the customer's order history and apply a discount to their next purchase. The manager did not explicitly ask for the customer's consent to access their account details or verify the customer's identity beyond their name. Which of the following actions best represents the appropriate response, considering Chipotle's commitment to data privacy and customer service? Option A. The manager should have politely explained that accessing order history requires verification and consent, and then followed the established procedure for verifying the customer's identity and obtaining their agreement before proceeding with any investigation or resolution. Option B. The manager should have offered a standard discount without investigating the specific complaint, as this avoids any potential data privacy concerns. Option C. The manager should have asked the customer for their full social security number to ensure they were the legitimate owner of the account before accessing any information. Option D. The manager should have immediately accessed the customer's order history to quickly resolve the issue and ensure customer satisfaction, as resolving complaints swiftly is the top priority. The correct answer is A. The manager should have politely explained that accessing order history requires verification and consent, and then followed the established procedure for verifying the customer's identity and obtaining their agreement before proceeding with any investigation or resolution. Explanation. The investigation demonstrates a potential conflict between a manager's desire to quickly resolve a customer complaint and the company's established procedures for handling such issues, particularly concerning data privacy. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing customer satisfaction with regulatory compliance and internal policy adherence. The manager's immediate inclination to offer a solution that might involve accessing or disclosing customer information without proper authorization presents a significant risk. The correct approach involves a thorough understanding and application of Chipotle's internal policies and relevant data privacy regulations, likely governed by U.S. federal and state laws such as the California Consumer Privacy Act, CCPA, if the customer is a California resident, or other applicable state privacy laws. This approach prioritizes obtaining explicit consent or adhering to strict data handling protocols before accessing or disclosing any personal information. It ensures that customer data is protected, builds trust, and avoids potential legal repercussions and reputational damage. This aligns with best professional practice by upholding ethical standards and regulatory requirements. An incorrect approach would be to bypass established procedures for expediency. For instance, offering a refund or discount without verifying the complaint through the proper channels, or without ensuring the customer's identity and consent for any data access would be a regulatory failure. This could violate data privacy laws by improperly accessing or disclosing personal information, even if the intent is to resolve a complaint. Another incorrect approach would be to dismiss the complaint without proper investigation, which, while not a direct data privacy violation, fails to uphold customer service standards and could lead to broader dissatisfaction and potential escalation. A third incorrect approach might involve sharing the customer's complaint details with other employees not directly involved in the resolution process, which could constitute an unauthorized disclosure of personal information and a breach of privacy. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with identifying the core issue, assessing potential risks, including legal, ethical, and reputational, consulting relevant policies and regulations, and then choosing the course of action that best mitigates risk while achieving a satisfactory outcome. This involves a commitment to ongoing training and awareness of data privacy, best practices, and company protocols.